the 2nd of March and the third day of the Guild elections.
Today's episode of Election Update will all be centred around the role of the Guild President, who we'll be speaking to later, along with a member of Burn FM.
We'll also be hearing from the other sabbatical officers about their work alongside the President.
That's all coming up today on Elections Update. Good morning and welcome to episode 3 of Elections Update. I'm Dominic Ryder.
And I'm Beryl Nas Hassan, and today we'll be welcoming Jack Mabley, the current president of the Guild. We'll be asking him about his role and his experience over this past year.
Luke Carr from Burn FM will also be joining us to talk about the role of the president and the elections in general.
We'll be catching up with Mel Thomas as she asks 2 full-time officers about how their roles work alongside the president.
And make sure you head over to the Guild TV YouTube channel to check out all the 60-second profiles of all the full-time candidates, where they let you know about their policies for their campaign to help you decide to pick your favourite and help you decide who to vote for.
And once you've made up your mind, don't forget to vote. Just go ahead to guildofstudents.com/vote. And remember, voting closes on Friday, 4 p.m.
But we're not the only ones who are covering the Guild elections. Burn FM also are, and we're delighted to say we're joined by Luke Carr from Burn FM this morning. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So, how has Burn FM's coverage been going so far?
It's been going very well, thank you. I mean, we started the same time you did with the Media Day. So we ran about 3 4-minute interviews with each candidate for each position, asking general questions: who are you, what role are you going for, like what are your main manifesto points, which are available at burnfm.com, including a profile of them all, which go alongside with your 60 seconds videos. We're also covering, doing commentary this week with you guys as well, and on Saturday we are also having 2 of our presenters on your show, and who are going to be talking to the winners and generally covering the election night. We're also doing a couple of articles, a couple of more interviews to go on the website. So generally just kind of little bits and bobs throughout the week. So,
Excellent.
So what do you personally look for in a Guild president?
Well, I think they've got to be very charismatic. I think they need to have that approachability because they are the face of the Guild. It needs to be a face that students can think, yeah, I can approach this person. I think they need to be very clear with what they aim to achieve. I don't think they should be sort of unspecific. What I look for is like very much specific points, not kind of general, just kind of getting to the nitty-gritty stuff that will help inform my vote, and generally just be there, be canvassing, be approaching, be talking to students and seeing what we collectively feel are the main issues.
Yeah. Bearing that in mind, how well do you think Jack Mabley has done this year as Guild President?
I think he's done very well. I think, looking back at what his manifesto points were last year, he wanted to get more events throughout the year, which Winter Wonderland, which was a great success. He wanted to deal with the more general issues like Wi-Fi and plug space, which we've got the new student hub opening in Aston Webb. We've got a new library opening in the summer, which both are set to have more study space, more plug sockets, more greater Wi-Fi coverage. Also, I think what he's done a good job with is being very much the face of the Guild and getting Guild known to students, particularly in comparison perhaps with the Guild election last year. I think there's a lot more there's more coverage, and for candidates, it's you're more aware who they are, what they're doing, and particularly the updates that happened, video updates that happened in November and January, helped keep us as students up to date with what they're doing. So we felt there's more transparency. So I think he's done a good job.
So you think he's made a real difference, do you think?
I think so, and I think because it's been such a good team this year. I mean, I think individually, like Daisy had with the free sanitary towels, you have Roberta getting new recycling bins, and so you've got individually all of them have had successes, and then collectively they've all worked together, like with the Not On campaign, cut the costs. So that's all. They've definitely all been making a difference for us.
Yeah, and I think you can really see it on campus
Definitely.
as well. The effect that each of them has had on
Most definitely.
Thank you so much for joining us today. It was a pleasure having you.
Thank you.
We've sent Mel Thomas to see how the president and the other officers work together to improve student life. Here's what she found out.
President's role is to coordinate the whole Guild team. Therefore, the interrelationship between the President's role and the part-time and full-time officers' role is crucial. We're here outside their offices to have a little chat with them about this.
Hi Daisy, thanks very much for agreeing to the interview. So what's your position, just to remind the viewers?
I'm Representation Resource Officer, so I'm in charge of all democracy at the Guild, so things like elections, your ideas. I'm in charge of sustainability, money and venues. That means like the bars and organising grab ball and things like that.
Can you just explain what his role is, basically?
So the President is kind of the main figurehead for the Guild. They tend to be the most recognisable officer that students can kind of know, and they know what they're doing. And they're also the main point of contact between us and the universities. The President sits on some really like high level committees and is kind of the Guild's like fighting voice for any like big issues going on.
What's the kind of relationship between the presidential role and your own role?
So the interesting thing about my role and the President's role is that it was the original President and Vice President. So we kind of work together to try and get our manifesto points done. As a sabbatical officer, you don't really have a line manager as such. The President is supposed to be the person making sure you're like on track, achieving all of sort of your goals and your manifesto points, and like working to the best of your abilities.
What have you done to support Jack in, and obviously the President, in his kind of reaching his manifesto points?
One of Jack's manifesto points about more support for year abroad students, and I actually did a year abroad myself, so I've kind of been that person to be able to advise him on like, this is what it was like for me when I was abroad, and saying this is what would have been helpful. So on like a more personal level, like that's quite a good example about how we work together.
And so kind of vice versa, how does he help you?
So he was Vice President for a year and is now President, so he has kind of all the experience. If I ever have any questions about like, who do I go to about this, like who does that, then he always knows. My role is really internal, my role is really like Guild focused. So if I ever want to do anything with the university, he can kind of tell me who to go to, get me the connections, get me into the meetings, and be like sort of the go-between, which is really helpful.
My first question is just kind of what your role is. Will you give us just a little description?
Sure. So I'm the Housing Community Officer, so I deal with things such as halls, so making sure that they're really fun and everyone's getting along, making sure that the students are effectively represented in those areas, but also in the private sector as well. Also the community side is liaising with the police, community stakeholders, and kind of ensuring that there's a community cohesion between students and also local residents.
And then can you just explain kind of how your role and the President's role kind of interrelate?
Yeah, so the President is kind of my line manager in a sense, so he kind of makes sure that we're all on track.
So how have you as Housing Community Officer kind of helped Jack or the President kind of work towards his manifesto point?
The joint project was, so on Jack's manifesto and my manifesto, we kind of had bigger events. His was bigger and better events, mine was more community events. So we thought we'd join up together and do a big community event, if that makes sense. That was in the form of the Winter Spectacular, which went down really well, and a lot of students seemed to enjoy it, so yeah.
Yeah, well, thanks very much. That was great. Thanks for joining us, basically. Yeah. So now that we've chatted to the officers, I think we can see that the two main things is that the President is like their line manager and is really kind of influential over the whole team, and they always have kind of joint projects together, like the Winter Spectacular and other things. So they've been really helpful, and I hope that's given you a better idea. Back to you in the studio.
Well, let's hear it from the man himself, the Guild of Students President, Jack Mabley, has joined us. Thank you very much for coming on. So, what exactly does the Guild President do?
It's a really difficult question, and it's one I really find hard to articulate, but I think the most part of my day, so Monday to Friday week, 70% of that is meetings, largely high-level university meetings where I'm the student representative for that particular meeting. I sit on the University Council, which is the highest level university meeting where all the strategic decisions get made, and I'm the sort of lead student representative in that case. I also lead on campaigns, so this year we've done stuff around Cut the Cost with junior doctors, and then also at a national level, Birmingham has a really proud history of getting involved in NUS, for better or for worse, and this year myself and another officer are very well linked into NUS. I sit on the National Welfare Zone Committee, and I also sit on the National Purchasing Board Committee.
All right. So we know that you were the housing officer before being the president. Do you think it helped prepare you for this role, and would you recommend it to future candidates to spend a year doing another role before they actually, run for presidency?
Absolutely. I mean, I'd never considered president in my life before. I remember coming to university and seeing the president and thinking, why? I don't get it. But then sort of you ease yourself in, started being an RA, and you're like, oh, I could do the vice president of housing role. And so I did it. And it was a really good year. I had a really good team last year. And it was that good team bonding we had and having Poppy as an incumbent president, which made me feel like how important it is to have sort of a second year on the team to sort of make sure all the rest of the team know what we're doing, and sort of when the handover period sort of kicks in, it's usually 3 months to settle in. With an incumbent on the team, you can reduce that to about 6 weeks because you can fill in any gaps and you can help sort of coach people so they get up to speed a lot quicker than they would otherwise.
I'm assuming that Guild President can be quite a tough and stressful role. Has there ever been a moment where you just really wanted to pack it all in and just say, oh, screw it?
There's quite a few. This job is full of highs and lows. Last year it was described by Bethan actually, Vice President of Democracy and Resources back then, that you're like a goalkeeper. People don't notice when you're saving the goals, they only notice when you miss.
Very good analogy.
It was a very good analogy and I really liked it. I think the one time when I was probably at my lowest was during Welcome Week, which is a surprise because Welcome Week last year was my favourite time of the year.
Oh, really?
What was going on was we had Welcome Week, but we were also doing our Democratic Structure Review, which we chose to do as a team despite knowing how much work Welcome Week was anyway. And so we were working sort of 7 till 10 most days. And we were adamant that we were going to get rid of Guild Council.
Yeah.
And so we rallied around, spoke to a load of people, got a load of people on board with a new online democratic model. And it was all worth it. And as soon as it passed, I mean, that was that sort of up here. But during that week, I'd never sort of been so stressed out in my life.
Yeah. I'm assuming getting rid of Guild Council helped out with the stress quite a bit.
Yeah, it really has.
Yeah.
I'm real, yeah.
And finally, how would you sum up in a few words your experience as a president?
It's been challenging, life-changing, but ultimately, like, incredible. Yeah.
Jack, thank you very much for joining us, and thanks also to Luke Carr from Burn FM and to our very own Mel Thomas for that VT. You'll be seeing more of her tomorrow.
Tune in again at 10 a.m. tomorrow morning when we'll be talking about student engagement and what has changed since last year's Guild elections.
Don't miss it. Goodbye.